welcome to all the participants to this better organized faculty development program under the guidance of Professor Meenakshi. Uh, I appreciate for being involved in this. Dear participants, this session we will devote to a very important teaching learning processes which are becoming or which have become the basis of all teaching learning it's becoming, in fact, rather all over the country. This outcome-based education system. What are its processes, which constitute this thing? How do we practice it, and what is the relevance in the modern context, especially when we are undergoing the implementation of NEP 2020. Now, if we look how our higher education institutions, the world has become very small. There is a lot of communications between the various institutions, students, teachers, and so on. In order to enhance the movability of our students, our teachers, it is essential that we conform to international standards. Now, it's no longer an option or aspiration that we are not to do it. We have to look at what are the international ranking, what are the international pedagogy, and so on. Now, a measure of international standing of an institution is the ability of its graduates to compete at the global level. Now, when we say our institutions are excellence, then it is expected that our students are able to compete at the international level. They are accepted all over the world. So this signifies that the education that they get, the competencies that they develop, the skills that they acquire should be acceptable all over the world. That's how we can compete with the other students who are coming from here. Now, achievement of we have been having graduates, there's a few graduates who are very good, but why not have large number of graduates who can compete at the international level and can meet the industry needs? See, the present day youth is also correct called as Generation Z. They are very computer savvy. They are smartphone addict. They are adept in internet and social media. They are autonomous. They are self-independent, assertive. They want things to be done as that way. Now, if that is the kind of environment which is existing at the national international level, where there are occurring disruptive technologies every few years, and students young who is very receptive to new technologies, they need to be taught so that they can they can be easily absorbed in these new technologies. And it is found that traditional education system, which is teacher centric, that is, teacher has been coming teaching and then testing the students, that students are not accepting it, the kind of variety it is giving. That's the reason that if you look at the traditional system, which is textbook based, which is output based, students are not happy. Students want to learn. Students want modern student want don't that teacher should become a facilitator. It's not that teacher says do what I want you to do. You have to learn what I say. Students are not responding to this. This is a picture which is a MIT students. If this can happen in the international level, how about our levels? So now the issue is how to prepare our student for the 20th century, 21st century, the changing world, how to prepare our students. But 21st century life is marked by rapid and continuous change. Our students are faced with the need to continually learn and adapt to new technologies, context, and expectation throughout their lives. It's not that you learn once and then it is used all over. For success, they will have to know how to successfully adjust to changing environments, evolving environments, changing careers, and the new jobs which are coming, which all of you know, artificial intelligence is bringing a revolution. The new roles which are evolving, the student would like to, we as teachers and faculty at institutions need to prepare our students. Now, the problem here is, the issue here is our teachers, I as a teacher, we as teachers are not aware and were neither taught how to meet the challenges of the disruptive world, of the changing world, which are facing so many technologies. Our teaching learning process, yours as well as mine, has been on the traditional style. So that means in order to meet the current requirements, we need to look at our traditional curriculum, because the traditional curriculum is not providing adequate skills, competencies to meet the present day requirements. So our current knowledge gap recalls several questions. So we find there is a lot of knowledge gap between which is being imparted by the traditional system, which is not meeting the changing environments. So the question is, how current knowledge gap, there is a lot of gap. How can we meet it? How can we teach our students when we as teachers do not know how to manage such changes? What kind of knowledge and skills, competence and habits of mind do our students really need to face the challenges and act as ethical and effective agents of change? Because the future belongs to the student, young students. So, in order to meet these challenges, in order to equip our students to face the changing environments, the traditional teaching learning model has been modified to what is called as a outcome based education model. Now this model has been proposed to educate and train our students to fulfill how the newer challenges are coming up. So outcome based education is a holistic education. Holistic implies that in the traditional system, we were concerned with imparting knowledge to the students. It was a knowledge intensive, or the teacher would study the textbooks, discuss in the class, sometime in detail, sometime just pass on the contents of a textbook to the students. Now, students don't accept this thing. In the older system, there was no emphasis on value-based education. In fact, as you know, now there's a lot of emphasis on value-based education. What does a value-based education implies? Similarly, students need to gain not only the cognitive abilities, they need to develop their manual abilities also. They need to develop their other abilities while in the class. So these kind of requirements are being addressed in the outcome-based education system. So a holistic approach to transform student to successful and happy person. So the goal of outcome-based education is to educate, train our students so that they become successful in the modern changing environments, in the modern challenging issues. And then not only that, the OBE, outcome-based education, puts emphasis on that to build, to develop happiness, to grow the student as a happy person. Now, how can we do these things? That means impart them knowledge, develop competencies, and enable them to lead a happy life, harmonious life. How can we do these things? Outcome-based education says this can be done if we decide beforehand. Please appreciate, if we decide beforehand what should be the goal of our education to the students. We as faculty members, we as institutional staff members, take a decision what kind of education, what kind of training we want to impart to the student. Not only impart to the students, but students should be able to demonstrate that what he has been taught, what has been made to learn, he can demonstrate that. So here comes the question of very important question, outcomes. Outcomes in this context implies student knowledge, student skill, student attitude, student behavior. Now, please note that the outcome in the context of outcome-based education signifies 4 elements. Elements are knowledge, skill, attitude, and behavior. Outcome represents, OB represents now, since this is being adopted almost everywhere in the world, so this is a very important pedagogy which has emerged to train the students, to equip the students. So OB framework has been adopted by all major universities and institutions around the world, and our new education policy also lays strong emphasis on this mode of teaching learning. Now, the basic philosophy of outcome-based education approach is OBE is founded on 3 basic premises. All students can learn and succeed. Please note this thing. This is what OBE says. All students can learn, they can succeed. And the success breeds success. That means if you help the student to succeed, they will find the ways to succeed. And it is the institute's responsibility to ensure that this students succeed. Now, philosophy of this, now nature has given us the same brain, the same competence to every student at the time of birth. Now, it is responsibility. Now, see, many times, as we know that in a class of, let us say, class of 30, there may be 5, 6, 7 students who are very bright. That means they're bright because they can solve problems, they can understand, they can communicate. This is because nature has given us. Now look at the other 25 or so. Why not? OB says those students are equally competent. Now, to ensure that they succeed is the responsibility of the institution. It's the responsibility of the faculty. How it can be done? Now, the reason says, OB says all students have talent, nature has given it this thing, and it's the job of the institution to develop it. The role of institutions is to find ways for students to succeed, rather than finding ways for students to fail. Excellence is for every student and not just for a few. Students should collaborate in learning rather than compete. They should learn from each other. They should learn from the faculty. They should learn from the environment. As far as possible, no student should be excluded from any activity in the institute. A positive attitude and mindset is essential. If you believe that you can get every student to learn well, they will that. So mutual trust among stakeholders. Stakeholder means students, teachers, management, parents, employers, and so on. There need to be a mutual understanding that we have to make our students successful. Please appreciate this thing. Now, if we look at this, then outcome-based education, if just I give you a quick comparison, in the case of outcome-based education, students are partners in learning. In the case of students are partners in learning. Now, in the traditional system, they gain but teacher discuss in the classroom. That means content-based teaching is in the traditional style, but it's given in textbook. Now, in the case of outcome-based education system, the assessment of the students is an ongoing basis. Continuously, students are assessed for their knowledge, for their skill, and so on. Now, in the traditional system, we have only examination and indication of knowledge. So, in the case of OBE, there is emphasis on knowledge, competency, and behavior and value system. Now, it is the learner-centric. The focus is the students. Now, in the case of traditional system, it's a textbook and lecture-centric. Teacher, whatever teaches, student prepare a classroom, they go to the examination, and then say we have passed. See, in the case of education-based OBE system, the teacher has to teach the students, though the discipline remains same, but in a way where students learn to become creators of knowledge. They think in an innovative way. Syllabus is not rigid. Learners responsible for their own learning. That means now, it's very important. In the outcome-based education system, the students are equally responsible for their learning. It's not that always teacher will be teaching them. The student will be learning, and unlike the lecturer responsible for teaching, emphasis on outcomes, emphasis on what hopes to achieve. See, in the traditional system, we have the concept of output. How many students have passed, percentage students? What is the level of syllabus? What is the percentage of, let's say, their performance, specifically with respect to the knowledge? But in the case of outcome-based education, emphasis on outcome. Now, I would use output in the case of traditional education and outcome in the context of OBE. Outcome implies, as I repeat again, knowledge, skill, attitude, and behavior. How do I measure the skill of the student? We don't concern the traditional system. Now here, time frame, their critical thinking and reasoning are the emphasis here. Here the emphasis on the traditional system is student ne rote learning kiya. He remembers things, he mugs things, then he reproduces in the examination, and we say learning. So please see here the difference between the traditional education and the outcome-based education. And the OBE emphasizes development of higher thinking skills. What are higher thinking skills? Creativity, innovation, critical thinking, problem solving skills. These are the higher level thinking skills. We will see that. Now, the OBE says discipline is important, but equally important is these higher thinking skills. So this is a major difference between this and this. And our new education policy says focus on student learning and development and lays emphasis on recognizing, identifying, and fostering new capability of each student. Multidisciplinary. Now, you know that in the context of new education policy, the emphasis on holistic education through multidisciplinary, that means social sciences, arts, humanities. The emphasis. And any question, please? Any doubt? Any question? So here, the emphasis on conceptual understanding, higher level thinking skills, ethics and human values, and extensive use of technology. So please appreciate these are the things which are which are integral part of NEP, and this is what the OBE addresses these things. So to sum up, OBE approach emphasizes what do you want a student to have or able to do. That means acquire knowledge, skill, attitude, and behavior. And then the issue is how can you best help student to achieve this thing? That means the delivery, teaching, learning should be such where student is involved. Students' interests are kept in mind, student oriented. Then how will you know what they have achieved it? That means the assessment. Now, assessment of knowledge is not doesn't follow the same technique as assessment of skill. How do I assess the attitude of the student? How do I assess the student is well behaved? How do I learn that over a period of time, students have gained certain human touch in its behavior and so on? That means the assessment has to be specific to what we are looking at. Are we looking at knowledge? Examination is good. Are we looking at skill? No, examination is not appropriate. Attitude, knowledge is not appropriate. Then examination not appropriate. That means assessment in the outcome-based education system has to be appropriate to the outcome that we want to assess it. That's fine. But then outcome-based education says, tell me whether student learning is improving or not, whether student outcomes are improving or not. If they are improving, how will you demonstrate that? So outcome-based education says, you analyze what you have assessed, you evaluate what you have assessed, and then look at whether student learning is improving whether student competence is improving. If it's improving, well and good. If it's not improving, what are you doing? What efforts are being done to improve that learning? So, indicating that in this context, OBE says we should focus on the continuous learning and improvement of the student. And we should know the reason how it is doing it. So OB approach addresses key questions as to who are our stakeholders. Stakeholder student, what is the level of the students? Are they first year, their second year? Are they diploma, their certificate? Who are our stakeholders? What facilities, environment, and policies must be present? Now, for example, what kind of labs, what kind of infrastructure should be present in order that students are able to gain what is expected? What services do we provide? What are the teaching learning methodologies we use? What are the assessment that we use? How do we measure our results? How do we use the results for continuous quality improvement? Are we achieving our objective and improving? Are our stakeholders satisfied? Now, please appreciate that if when we're implementing outcome-based education approach, then we are to answer these questions. We will ask ourselves and then do the same. So the key aspects of outcome-based education framework are important are OB says define the graduate attributes. What it means when I say graduate, here's the context. Graduate. Suppose we have a BTech student, they are graduate. We have diploma student, they are also graduates. This is the terminology which is deployed in outcome-based education because it's American origin. So when I say graduate attributes, what are the kind of qualities that we beforehand decide our student should have it? Please appreciate these things. So UB framework says define the graduate attributes, the qualities. Then they say now there are many programs. See, program is BTech is a program, BTech civil engineering, BTech mechanical engineering. These are the program. The BA is a program. Now, outcome-based education says you define beforehand what are the qualities of the students, what are the characteristics of students that you want to develop, and what are your objectives. Then specify what kind of curriculum you will have, what kind of learning that you expect, then what kind of teaching learning methodology you will use, then what are the facilities that you are offering, how you are measuring that. That means the outcome-based education framework is a very detailed. We will understand all these things as we move along, but please appreciate the in-depth, horizontal as well as vertical insight of OBE. So when I say program objectives, it indicates graduate attributes are the qualities. Now program, let us say we look at the BTech program. Now BTech program, let us say in civil engineering. What are the civil engineering students will do after 4 or 5 years? That means civil engineering program will have objectives. They are defined by us, by the faculty. That means what kind of what kind of alumni we are training. Similarly, how do I demonstrate that the kind of alumni that I want to train, the kind of education that I want my alumni to do it, then how do I do in the classroom? How do I do in the institution? Then we design what are called outcomes. Outcome example, there is a integrated learning of the BTech program. Those outcomes will be referred as program outcomes. Now, for every program, there are courses. So every course will have outcomes. Now, please remember, I repeat, outcomes are knowledge, skill, attitude, behavior. So which means if I'm having a program, then I need to specify what are the outcomes of that program, complete integrated. It could be a 1 year program, it could be a 3-year program, it could be a 4-year program. But what are the integrated learning outcomes that you expect? Specify beforehand. Now, since every program will have courses, right? For example, they will have lab courses, they have theory courses, every program will have courses. Now, every course will have outcomes. Now, what are the outcomes? Outcomes are the learnings. Please see, outcome, I repeat, outcome refer to knowledge, skill, attitude, and behavior. So when a student has undergone one course, that is a course on thermodynamics, what kind of learning he has in terms of knowledge, in terms of competencies, and so on. So why should we define it? That means OB says you define beforehand what will be the learnings of the student when he completes one course. What will be learning of the student when he completes a full program? Let us say in BTech there are about 5.10 there are about 40 theory courses. There are about 20-25 labs. Each of the lab is helping the student to learn. So for each of these courses, we need to define the outcomes. Those outcomes help us to define the program outcome, that integrated one. So when I am saying how should I think of these things? Question that learning outcome address include the following. That means we as faculties have to decide what knowledge, skills, abilities, and values should the ideal student graduate from a program demonstrate. How will they be able to demonstrate these capabilities? Not only they gain it, they have to demonstrate. How well does our program prepare students for careers, graduate school, professional studies, higher learning, and then what evidence can we use to demonstrate growth in student knowledge, skill, abilities? Now, please see here, these questions have to be understood by the faculty. These questions have to be taken care of in the form of curriculum, and those curriculum has to be implemented in the class. And when we are doing that thing, then OB says, yes, now we are looking at helping the student to learn effectively. Student learning outcomes, they help the student know with them what kind of learning they are having. It helps the student to understand what kind of skill, what kind of discipline, what kind of knowledge he will gain or she will gain before doing any program. So learning outcomes are very important component of outcome-based education system. Defining the learning outcomes, implementing the learning outcomes, and then measuring them is a very important. It involves a very deeper understanding, and this practice has to be implemented very much. So, but why do we are focusing on this? We are focusing on the higher thinking skill because if we look at the way human being brain functions, see, already nature has given us the abilities, cognitive abilities, that are intellectual abilities, like say logic, reasoning, analytical thinking, mathematics. The nature has already provided human brain on this. So we say left brain is cognitive intensive and right brain is affective oriented. When I say affective, what it means? Affective means beliefs. Affective means value. Affective means emotions. So, see, when I say imagination, intuition, see, everyone has intuition. Everyone is creative. All these things are already available in the human brain. Now, when available in the human brain, and it is established by the neuroscience that our brains are not fixed. That means these abilities are not fixed. Those abilities can be developed. Now, instead of assuming that whatever natural talent I have gained, it continues that. No, we are developing it further. That is, brain is a muscle. So current brain research demonstrates that almost all students are capable of brain growth and change. So they should be exposed to learning experiences that are challenging and engaging. The brain can adapt, recognize, and reconstruct itself based on learning and experiences. What we learn can change not only the physical structure of the brain, but the way that information is stored, organized, and used. Now, please compare these things. Why I have given you these things, that is, it demonstrate the relevance of the outcome-based education system with what nature has given us. Nature has already provided us these kind of attributes. Now, our goal is to develop that. As I mentioned, in the outcome-based education system, it is we decide beforehand what kind of learning student you want to impart at various levels. Exposure to opportunities for active learning, as well as liberty to learn appears to positively affect brain growth. Now, self-learning, variety of learning. Educator can strengthen support skills of most students with learning differences through relevant instructions and assessments. Now, thus indicating that if a student has creativity, a student is highly creative, how do I measure that? How should I develop that further? If a student is a highly analytical ability, how we help the student to develop it further? How can we measure that? How can we make students more and more creative and so on? Thus indicating, though the nature has given us these abilities, competencies, the outcome-based education addresses these issues. Outcome-based education specifies how we can develop, how we can enhance these natural abilities further. Instead of simply focusing on knowledge, intellectual abilities, focus on other abilities like reasoning, higher thinking skills, and so on. That's where I wanted to ensure that you appreciate that learning, God has already given us all these attributes. God has already bestowed us with these competencies, these characteristics, and so on. Now, the relevance outcome-based education says, yes, these can be developed further. How? Now see, the studies indicate the learning of this human being can be classified into three domains: cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. Now, please see here, cognitive is knowledge and skills, affective is attitude and behavior, and psychomotor is manual and physical skill. That's how every human being is. These are what is available every human being. Now the issue is, how can I take it further? How can I enhance them? The purpose of education is to ignite the natural abilities which nature has given us. The purpose of education is to enhance our abilities, knowledge, and so on. Now, studies have been see, when I say effective, it means creativity, it means emotion, it means imagination. When I say cognitive, it means ability, mathematical ability, logical ability, reasoning, and so on. So these things, now psychomotor is manual. So we can say cognitive is intellectual, affective is with mind, attitude and behavior, and psychomotor is manual. These are the broad classifications which have been studied extensively and are being specified. Let's look at cognitive domain. How do we learn it? Now, this has become a part of the outcome-based education framework. See, education framework is so powerful that it encapsulates what are the human learning processes. What are the human learning? So, cognitive domain, when I say, you are all aware, cognitive domain is further divided into 6 levels. Those levels, let's look at this. We remember things. मतलब हम याद करते हैं. When it says level is understand, we understand what is being done. See, it's like this Newton's law. I will remember Newton's law by rote. Then we understand what it means. Understand what the facts means. Then be able to apply that. So what are the constraints of Newton's law? What are the applications of Newton's law? What are the various ideas involved in this that will apply? Then now I can understand only if I remember. To understand, I must remember. To apply, I must understand. And then analyze. I have information. I have components of, and then I understand how that information, what is significance of that particular part of information. So breaking down information into component parts, breaking in product into various parts, and see how they are connected with each other. Now, see, this is where we need to do thinking, evaluate. Now, when I have given certain ideas, I am given certain information, I want to see whether it's a fake information, whether it's the correct information, and so on. So create, combine parts to make a new whole. That means joining things and creating new things, new product, information, and so on. So outcome-based education deploys how do I address the higher thinking skills. So in the outcome-based education system, the human learning processes, human learning activities are inbuilt. So when I say, now see in the case of cognitive domain is knowledge oriented. When I say, now these issues are raised in the outcome-based education system, not in the traditional system. Now, because outcome-based education system emphasizes the knowledge part, emphasizes the value part, emphasizes the manual part. Now, that how do I incorporate that into my framework? So, if I look at the cognitive domains, it has 6 levels. These 6 levels, Bloom taxonomy is account. Now, when I say student should be given assignment where he learns how to analyze a problem, where he learns how to apply a particular rule, and so on. So if we look at there is a hierarchical arrangement. If I want to create, I should have the ability to evaluate things. If I want to analyze things, if I want to evaluate things, I should have the ability to analyze things. If I want to develop the ability of analyze, I must develop the ability of applying things, and so on. So outcome-based education says, in order to develop higher thinking skills in the student, then focus on how new things can be created. Now, how will I know that my assignment, that my assessment is encouraging the student to think creatively? How do I know that? How do I express this? Now, outcome-based education says you express this with the help of learning outcomes. Now, how do I design a learning outcome? I use statements to design a learning outcome. When I design a statement, I use verbs. Now, these verbs have been given for the various levels. These are 6 levels. Now, when I say this has been done by Bloom, Now, see, when I say describe something, it means whatever student has understood, you describe that. If I say apply, that means whatever student understood, he can apply only when he understands these things. Similarly, he is able to analyze only when he is able to understand how to apply, how to separate, and so on. So each of these levels has been identified by, in order to create a learning outcome corresponding to these levels, the Bloom has suggested certain works. Now you can look at these works for corresponding to each of the domains on the internet. Now in this case, so cognitive levels help to decide skills. Now we want to make our students, let's say, with higher thinking skills. So in this terminology, three lower levels, remember, understand, and apply, they are characterized as lower level thinking, and analyze, evaluate, and create are analyzed as higher level thinking. See, when I say higher level thinking, this means I am encouraging a student to think creatively. I'm making a student to think critically, and so on. Now, in order that, so the lower three levels will correspond to lower thinking skills, and higher three levels will correspond to higher thinking skills. Now, please important, outcome-based education says the emphasis should be on the higher thinking skills. Higher thinking skills is creativity. You remember the brain? I want to develop that. How can I develop those things? How can I develop higher thinking skills? You remember? See, if I just go back here, here's the higher thinking skills, logic, analytical ability, creativity, and so on. So these things, these attributes are already present. Now, how do I develop them? I develop them by focusing on the various levels. These are empirical, and they have been found to be practical in the practical cases. So lower order thinking skills are those that involve knowledge, comprehension, and some types of application. That means three lower levels. Higher order thinking skills are those which involve analysis, evaluation, creation, and so on. So the goal of outcome-based education system emphasizes that we should focus on higher thinking skills and try to enhance these and among the students as they grow, as they go higher up in the learning ladder. The emphasis should be on imbibing higher thinking skills when students are in the, let's say in BTech student, third year, fourth year. And lower order thinking skill can emphasize maybe in the first year or maybe in the 11th and 12th class. Now, please, this hierarchical structure you need to appreciate, because so far our teaching has been focusing mainly on knowledge, on the three lower thinking skills. Students were given knowledge, they understand and they reproduce. Whenever we want them to apply their skills to understand newer aspects, they will always say, "Sir, this is not in the syllabus. Sir, this I cannot do that." That means, in order to enforce higher level thinking skills among the student, our focus should be on the upper three levels. That is, analyze, evaluate, and create. How do I do that? I specify with the help of verbs that is given here. So kindly see that goal of higher education is to imbibe higher order thinking skills among the students. Now, traditional education system does not bring out these things. We focus always on knowledge. Students of their own efforts, students of their own natural abilities, maybe bright students, very intelligent student, innovative student, creative student. Let us say there are 10%, 20%. Now, OBE says, what about the rest of the 80%? It is the responsibility of the faculty and the institution to imbibe higher order thinking skills in the maximum number of students. Ideally, all students. Let us say we have students in third year. Why not all students be able to gain, be able to enhance their higher order thinking skills like creativity, etc. Now, our traditional system does not address this issue. Outcome-based education system addresses this issue. See, the advantage of higher order thinking skills is whatever you learn, it stays with you. The disadvantage of lower order thinking is जैसे मैंने गोटा मारा, मेमोरी से याद किया, इम्तिहान में पास हो गए, तो वो आदमी भूल जाता है. So long-term remembering, long-term application, long-term benefits are drawn when students are trained and exposed to the problems of higher order thinking. Right? So what kind and level of skills you want student to imbibe at the end of course will be decided by the type of questions, by the type of assignments. So this please here, OB says it's essential. Now, how do I do that? I do it by expressing learning outcomes. Any question here, please? Okay, then I go to the next affective domain. Any question, Aman? Any question, Aman? Yes, please. Hello?
Yes, sir. There is no question, sir.
Pakka?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, the next emphasis is on affective domain. Affective domain, you remember, this is with regard to the human mind. Our outcome-based education system says we need to impart skill. We need to impart skill and knowledge to the students, but at the same time, respect his learning as regard various attitudes, as regard his behavior, as regard his value system. So the effective domain of outcome-based education says this domain includes the manner in which we deal with things emotionally, such as feelings, values, appreciation, enthusiasm, motivations, and attitudes. Now, this we never taught in the traditional system, but outcome-based education system says you consider these also. Now, effective domain concern human values, emotions, beliefs, attitude, and feelings. Now, these are the guide and foundation of our thinking, decision, behavior. See, our behavior in the society, our attitude in the society, our dealing with our colleagues, neighbors, depends on the kind of emotions, the kind of beliefs that we acquire. No, environment also gives you these things. Your birth also gives you these things. But the OBE says, why not take it further? Why not make education an ethical oriented? Why not make the students to practice ethics? Why not make the student to respect values, love, gratitude, and so on? So this is a very important component which outcome-based education says you incorporate in your teaching learning process. How do I do that? Again, effective domains is divided into 5 levels. See, many times we simply say, हाँ जी हाँ, अब मैं आपका thanks करता हूँ. But how about दिल से thank करने के बाद क्या है? So when I say receiving, being open to experience, willingness to learn from others. See, when many times we want the students, we want the human being to learn not only from the books, but from each other also. How do I imbibe that habit in the student? So learning from each other, responding. Now, responding means ability to participate, working as a team player, working as a let's say as a faculty member, helping others. So kindly see, this is a very important need to appreciate these things. It is imbibing good habits in the students as regard helping each other, as regard knowing whether I am ethical or not, as regard my being honest or not with my work, as regards being demonstrating that also. So when I say internalizing a value system, it means I respect that value as a practice. So effective domain addresses the ethical and moral learning of the students. Now, how can I enhance the moral learning of students, ethical learning of students? Remember, you have the laboratories. So you have the laboratories. In laboratories, copying अच्छा नहीं है. That's a habit. कई लोगों की habit ही होती है, कई लोगों की नहीं होती है, कई सच बोलना होता है. So these are the, I'm not going too much details on this, but these are something which are built into outcome-based education framework. When I'm implementing outcome-based education framework and designing my course and program learning outcomes, then these levels, these learning should be reflected in those course learning outcomes. So this is just to give you an idea that human values are integral part of outcome-based education framework and can be imbibed in the class itself by appropriately specifying the learning outcomes. Then the psychomotor domain. See, psychomotor domain, now you use the labs. In the lab, you use the equipment. You concern about accuracy. Say doctors use about the precision, or engineers use about the strength. Sometimes equipment is very heavy. So psychomotor domain refers to the precision learning, speed learning, doing work quickly, and so on. So there are psychomotor domain, there are manual, agility, being quick, strength, and so on. So psychomotor domain learning outcomes concern and deal with the development and manipulation of physical skills, things like measuring, setting up and using equipment, using tools, drawing graphs, and so on. Now, please appreciate that psychomotor domain is important in the areas like music, in areas like interior architecture, in areas like interior design, psychomotor domain wherever, or in the laboratories. So psychomotor domain we learn from the using and demonstrating physical skills. So psychomotor learning, how things like measuring, setting up, using equipment, using tools, drawing graphs, and so on. Psychomotor learning is demonstrated physical skills such as movement, coordination, manipulation, agility, refinement, and so on. So development of these skills requires practice and is measured in terms of speed, precision, distance, procedures, or techniques in execution. Now, please appreciate the significance of, and these are again, they have levels. Like cognitive domain, they have 5 levels. Now, these 5 levels have corresponding verbs. Now, those verbs are used to specify the learning outcomes. So I will just mention these things. More will be covered when you are discussing Bloom taxonomy and so on. So we find that the three domains, human learning domains, are incorporated in the outcome-based education framework. And those incorporation help us, the student, to learn, to emphasize, to enhance his natural skills as regards cognitive domain, as regard affective domain, and as regard psychomotor domain. This is something which is unique to outcome-based education framework. So outcome-based education framework is a very powerful system to develop the human abilities, competencies, which nature has given us. Now kindly see the close connection between all these things. Whatever nature has given us, OBE system tries to work on that and enhance it. How does it does it? It does it by defining the curriculum and incorporating the various modes of learning through learning outcomes. So please appreciate that when we are having these things, a very important component of outcome-based education framework. So the processes and practices which have been designed to implement the outcome-based education framework have a strong relevance to our real life, have a strong connection with the nature, and so on. These three domains overlap: affective, psychomotor, and cognitive. Cognitive brain, psychomotor body, affective mind. So mind, body, and brain, they all work together. The outcome-based education system helps us how to enhance these things. The traditional system has been emphasizing, as I mentioned earlier, on enhancing and developing cognitive. So domain predominance in various disciplines. Cognitive, affective, and psychomotor domains are relevant to all our learning, but the relative role in some discipline contexts may be more than others. For instance, affective domain is one of the central areas in the assessment of learning outcomes of medical students, apart from the cognitive and psychomotor domains. So these, a doctor has to have sympathetic, empathetic attitude toward the patients. Affective domain. For the music, for the sports discipline, psychomotor is important, becomes important. For mathematics, physics, cognitive become more important. Others are present, it's only a question of relative importance. Statistics, cognitive is very important. So please, similarly, you can do others. So Bloom levels in thinking. These are all Bloom levels. In junior classes, most learning occur at lower levels. That is knowledge, understanding, and application. In junior levels, most learning occur at lower level. That is knowledge, understanding, and corresponding this thing. So when we design course outcomes for the lower classes, we use the verb corresponding to lower three levels. For instance, one may be expected to learn the names and properties of chemical elements, understand why some elements react with others, conduct experiments, application. Now, please appreciate these things. In lower levels, these three levels become important. And these levels are identified with the help of words. At these levels, memory and comprehension are necessary. छोटी क्लास है, बच्चों के लिए बच्चा अगर नर्सरी में होता है तो वो सिर्फ याद ही करता है, तो समझ में नहीं आती है. When he goes to little higher classes, 8th 9th में उसको थोड़ी अंडरस्टैंडिंग बन जाती है. When he goes 11th 12th थोड़ी सी एप्लीकेशन बन जाती है. When he goes to higher education, he learns to analyze things. When he still goes higher, say in MTech or in BTech final, he starts creativity. See, creativity can be at the lower level also, but this is a categorization for simplicity, though it's empirical. Textbook and study guides present knowledge as absolute and unchanging. We gain knowledge. क्योंकि वहां पर वही जो लिखा है स्टूडेंट वही मानता है. This अभी disadvantage with us at present is this continues in higher classes also. This continues in higher classes also, which need to be changed. We need to create knowledge, make our students skillful and innovative. So focus on the upper 3 levels. Now this we are able to understand when we are trying to implement the processes and practices of outcome-based education framework. Now, if put it in other words, outcome-based education framework takes into account, depends upon how human beings learn. And then it comes out with a prescription how to make students to learn more, how to make students to enhance these things. And the prescription comes from the Bloom levels. Because ultimately, what our interaction with the students is when we are teaching them. Now, when I am teaching a student, what I am teaching? What should be learning outcomes? So learning outcomes. We need to create knowledge. So which need to be changed? We need to create knowledge, make our students skillful and innovative. So focus on the upper 3 levels. Now, outcome-based higher order thinking skills. Higher order HOTS are what we are aiming to. Teachers should teach students about HOT, what it entails, its benefits, as well as strategies. Now, in order to see to it that outcome-based education framework is implemented properly, that we as teachers need to focus on how to train our students in imbibing, in enhancing higher thinking skills. This enables learner to be aware of and understand, make our learner student to be aware and understand their own strengths and challenges with regard to higher order thinking and be better prepared to tackle these challenges. Once a student knows what he is lacking, then he focuses on that. Now, how can higher order thinking be embedded in our courses and inculcate among students in the regular room, in the classroom teaching? This is very important. How can higher order thinking be embedded in our courses and inculcated among students in the regular classes? So, just to give you a quick view of this, OB stresses inculcation of higher order thinking skill among students. So higher order thinking skills are critical thinking, creative, evaluating and analyzing, and lower order thinking skills are remembering and so on. So higher order thinking skills are important. Now here I would suggest each of these staff members, participants, that in order to enable the student to develop higher order thinking skills, they themselves should appreciate what are these things. How many faculty members understand what is critical thinking? How many faculty members can appreciate what are the attributes of critical thinking skill? Please focus on these. Then you can look at these. Now, because in critical thinking, we need to appreciate the identifying the problem, analyzing the problem, reflecting what kind of thought processes, evaluating and reasoning. So, in order to be able to imbibe higher order thinking skill, critical thinking, faculty members should know these attributes. So, common examples of critical thinking skills. Then, creative thinking skills is a creative thinking process of making something new or different, which is of value. Creative thinking skill is the ability to design, think, and create something new. Maybe concept, a solution, method, or a work. So that means in order to imbibe higher thinking skills in the students, teacher should appreciate these things. Then he should be able to design his assignments, which involves these aspects. He should be able to assess these through assessment methods. Now, remember, creativity is a learned skill. There are many studies have shown that creativity can be learned. Now, and a very interesting study, though a little old, and established fact now, that the creativity reduces as we grow in age. George found out that 5-year-old, if I take the carrying out test, creativity is 98%, then by the time we are, let us say, 15-year-old, it stays only 12%. Now, if to adults, it's about 2%. Thus indicating that inference, non-creative behavior is learned fast. Now, outcome-based education system says, identify this, use those techniques, use those assessment, and so on. So, salient features which are to be learned, are comprehensive, analytical ability, problem solving, and so on. So, higher order thinking skills involve awareness and observation of ideas, comprehension of ideas, information, analysis, interpretation, reflection, evaluation, inference, and so on. So, this is what is to be done. So, we need to emphasize higher order thinking skills because lower order thinking learning discourages and limits the learner thinking. Higher order learning multiplies comprehension, increases, and so on. So, should thinking be taught in separate lessons across the curriculum? Now, outcome-based education says if you prepare your curriculum according to the outcome-based category, this can be taught in the class. This can be taught in the class. You remember, we are having learning outcome, knowledge-based, skill-based learning outcome. Then we have the affective. Then we have the psychomotor. Now, psychomotor, lab intensive. Affective is. Just a minute, please.
एयरपोर्ट के पास बुक करें।
Now, thinking, see, OB approach helps to imbibe and enhance thinking skills among students in the class by deciding student learning outcome. We have just mentioned learning outcomes at the course level and learning outcomes at the program level. See, when that is the case, then we find that learning outcome involve with thinking skills. Those can be developed there in the class depending upon the assignments, depending upon the assessments, depending on these things. So real life projects are very important. Now, how to embed higher order thinking in the classroom teaching? So outcome-based education framework allows this when we define intended learning outcomes. Remember, intended learning outcome. When I said COs are designed using Bloom taxonomy verbs of various domain levels. So when I briefly described about the Bloom methodology of how to incorporate the various thinking levels in the various learning levels in these things. So that's how it's done. You will be discussing this again in the class on the Bloom taxonomy in more detail. But here the point to be emphasized is that all these things can be incorporated in these things with the help of these things. So we define the program outcomes are also referred to as program learning outcomes. Now, refer to integrated learning of the student on completion of the program. Program may be certificate, diploma, degree. Program outcome conveys what the student has learned about discipline, skills, human behavior, values, social aspects, program specific outcome. So defining course learning outcomes and program learning outcome is the focus of the outcome-based education system in order to implement the student learning. See, these program learning outcome are the intended learning outcomes, what I want my student to learn. And with the help of graduate attributes, we do all these things. So course learning outcomes enable us to design the program outcome. Suppose I want to achieve these things. As I mentioned, OB emphasizes graduate attributes. They help to define what are the program outcomes. Now, program outcome describe what all students will be able to do at the completion of the program, integrate knowledge and skills. Program outcomes are on completion of the program as knowledge, skills, and competency develop over time and increase practice and effort. Now, since the program could be 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and so on. So this is an integrated learning. Now, this integrated learning is acquired with the help of the courses. We define the course outcomes. These course outcomes are defined using the Bloom taxonomy and the Bloom words and corresponding to what I want the student to learn and gain. So the structure of an outcome that we define, mode outcome need to have the following component: action verb, Bloom verb, activity to perform, what is to be done, at what levels to be done, criteria, condition of the performance. So action verb is the Bloom verb, so what is to be done, and so on. Now, please appreciate this outcome is designed in such a way so that student knows whether action verb is higher order thinking skills, whether action verb is lower order thinking skills. So example of learning outcome is design research proposal independently. Now, here, students should be able to design learning outcome. See, learning outcome is always written as student should be able to do that. More you will learn in the literature. Student should be. I'm giving you what is the significant, what are the things which are in outcome-based education system. Good design is student should be able to design research proposal independently to determine moisture in the air and carry out experiment. So the second specification, these colored verbs, these are the Bloom verbs corresponding to various levels. So that's how it is done. Similarly, once one learning outcome is designed, then the learning outcome should be such that it can be measured, it can be observed, and it should be achievable, realistic, and timely, indicating the learning outcome should be such that we should be able to implement it, assess it, measure it, and then improve it. That's the basic philosophy of learning outcome. So if I just give you an example of course outcome of Java programming, then here's example. Normally for every course, you can have 4, 5, or 6 course outcomes, and I think I should then we can have the program outcomes. Then program course outcomes are mapped to the program outcomes, and so on. So that's how I will stop it here, because graduate attributes and program outcomes, this gives you a feel of what are the various things involved, what are the various processes and practices and relevance of these learning that we Basic philosophy, it is a holistic approach which tries to bring what nature has given us and so on. Thank you very much. No, we can. No, I will stop it here. Let us have some questions, if there are any.
Any questions, dear participants? You may kindly unmute or write in the chat box.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Dr. Satendra Sharma. I have one question, sir.
Please, Tendra ji जरूर पूछिएगा.
Sir, actually, when we are teaching in our class, a higher level, suppose even up to design, if we give any question, students only 10% or 15% students are able to write the answer of that.
बिल्कुल ठीक है.
And when we go for create,
हम्म.
not even a single or even not even a one or two student can write the answer of particular question.
बिल्कुल ठीक कहा आपने.
So, sir, when we are designing a curriculum, our university also doesn't give level of 5 or 6, whatever.
बिल्कुल ठीक है.
Create level, they have not given in COs also. They have not defined. But we want to achieve it. How we can, sir, go up to create level? So I was keenly watching your slide. It is really very effective, and I am very much thankful to you, sir. So just please help me how to achieve a level of create from.
तेंद्र जी, आपका क्वेश्चन बहुत ही बढ़िया है. यही हमें बहुत बड़ी कमी है. क्यों? देखो, मैं फ्रैंकली बात कर रहा हूँ. टीचर को नहीं मालूम है कि क्रिएटिविटी के लिए क्या क्या एट्रीब्यूट्स हैं. वुड यू एग्री?
जी सर, करेक्ट.
जब मेरे को एज ए टीचर ही नहीं मालूम है तो मैं बच्चों को क्या सिखाऊंगा?
बिल्कुल सही सर, बिल्कुल.
अच्छा, इसलिए सबसे पहले जो चीज जो जरूरी है, आवर टीचर शुड बिकम फैमिलियर with the various higher thinking skills and their attributes.
ओके.
जैसे प्रॉब्लम सॉल्विंग आप ले लो.
जी सर, जी सर.
क्रिएटिविटी ले लो. क्रिएटिविटी के लिए क्या क्या एट्रीब्यूट्स हैं which help the student to think differently.
Right sir, right sir.
क्या हम लोग करते हैं? आंसर इज नो. क्यों नहीं करते? क्योंकि हमारी जो एजुकेशन हुई है ना, आपकी भी और मेरी भी
जी,
उसमें इस पर ध्यान ही नहीं दिया गया था.
करेक्ट सर, वेरी करेक्ट सर.
एजुकेशनल सिस्टम में जो टेक्स्ट बुक में लिखा हुआ है
जी,
हम उस टेक्स्ट बुक को क्लास में जाके रिप्रोड्यूस कर देते हैं.
दैट्स ऑल सर, दैट्स ऑल.
अच्छा, और उसी का इम्तिहान ले लेते हैं.
और क्वेश्चन भी यूनिवर्सिटी एग्जाम में भी सेम वहीं से आएगा सर.
क्वेश्चन भी वो 10 में से कर लो, 4 करने हैं, वो भी वहीं से आएगा.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल.
आपने बहुत बढ़िया सवाल, इसलिए मैं कह रहा हूँ
जी,
इसी वजह से कि ये जो कमी, इसका मतलब ये कमियां ऐसी हैं कि स्टूडेंट को थिंकर नहीं बना रही हैं.
बिल्कुल सर, हम केवल डिग्री दे रहे हैं सर पास करके.
बिल्कुल ठीक कह रहे हैं, हम डिग्री दे रहे हैं. अब आउटकम बेस्ड एजुकेशन सिस्टम से ये गलत है. क्यों गलत है? क्योंकि आजकल इतनी ज्यादा एनवायरनमेंट, इतनी टेक्नोलॉजी, इतना इवन डिसिप्लिन चेंज हो रहे हैं
जी,
कि स्टूडेंट को इंटरेस्ट नहीं ले रहा है.
बिल्कुल
सर, ये तो मैं यूट्यूब पे देख लूंगा.
यस सर,
ये तो मैं टेक्स्ट बुक में देख लूंगा, ये तो मैं हेल्प बुक में देख लूंगा.
बिल्कुल.
तो स्टूडेंट जो है वो भी बड़ा उदास है.
यस,
इस उदासी को कैसे दूर करो कि स्टूडेंट को पता, कोई चैलेंजिंग काम मिले तो बड़ा खुश होगा.
यस,
स्टूडेंट को भी जब पता लगे कि मुझे इसमें रातों रातें जाग के सब काम करना पड़ेगा, मुझे कल अपने टीचर के उससे पूछना पड़ेगा, मुझे अपने कुलीग से पूछना पड़ेगा, तो उसको भी पता लगता है अरे यार ये तो बड़ी मेहनत का काम है. और जो यंग माइंड होता है वो चैलेंज के लिए रेडी रहता है.
बिल्कुल सर, बिल्कुल.
तो ये क्या हम अपने ट्रेडिशनल सिस्टम में यंग माइंड के लिए चैलेंज क्रिएट कर रहे हैं या नहीं? आंसर इज नो.
नो.
कैसे? अब आगे चलो. शुड आई कंटिन्यू लाइक दिस or should I think of creating the challenge? Obviously,
एक और मेजर प्रॉब्लम है सर, 10% बच्चा तो ट्यून हो जाएगा चैलेंज लेने के लिए, लेकिन 90% बच्चा बोलता है कि क्या सर ये एग्जाम में आएगा।
वो इसलिए कि उन्हें नहीं, उसका कसूर नहीं है। देखिए हम लोग उसी तरह से चले आ रहे हैं, वो इसीलिए पूछता है वो।
बिल्कुल सर, बिल्कुल सर।
ये जो ओबी के लेक्चर्स है ना, इंट्रोडक्टरी लेक्चर्स,
जी,
ये स्टूडेंट को भी देने चाहिए।
यस सर, यस सर।
क्यों देने चाहिए? स्टूडेंट में क्यूरियोसिटी जनरेट करने के लिए ये बहुत जरूरी है कि स्टूडेंट क्वेश्चन पूछे। आज का स्टूडेंट क्वेश्चन क्यों नहीं पूछता है? कहता है मैं किताब में देख लूंगा।
हाँ, वो भी नेट से, मोबाइल से पढ़ते हैं सर, बुक भी कोई नहीं लेता आजकल। अब
नहीं लेता ना। अच्छा, इसकी दिस इम्प्लाई जो हमारी प्रॉब्लम्स ऐसी हों कि स्टूडेंट घूम जाए,
हाँ,
वो स्टार्ट बनाने के लिए टीचर की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी आ जाती है।
बिल्कुल।
अब टीचर, आपकी और मेरी एजुकेशन जो है वो टेक्स्ट बुक बेस्ड है,
हाँ,
मुझे भी उतना नहीं आ रहा है। तो आउटकम बेस्ड एजुकेशन फ्रेमवर्क सेज चेंज योरसेल्फ,
राइट सर, राइट।
चेंज योरसेल्फ एंड लर्न दीज थिंग्स। अब आप सतेंद्र जी, मैं बताऊं, मैं पिछले 10 साल से ओबी में काम कर रहा हूँ,
यस सर।
10 से भी ज्यादा हो गए, और अभी भी मुझे चैलेंज नजर आते हैं इसमें।
है सर, वो तो
Teaching भी
डेली इफ यू गो इन द क्लास डेली यू विल फील सम चैलेंज सर।
ठीक बात है। अच्छा, अब ये है, अब चैलेंज, अब हमारे लिए प्रॉब्लम ये है, वी मस्ट चेंज अवर सेल्फ।
यस सर।
अब देखिए, जैसे मान लीजिए आपने भी पीएचडी करते करते या एमए करते करते 20 साल लगा दिए।
यस सर।
अब जो 20 साल तक एक ही मोल्ड में पढ़े जा रहा है, वो
Yes.
चेंज क्यों करेगा? अच्छा, फिर हमारा जो सिस्टम है वो कहता है सिलेबस खत्म करना है।
दैट इज मेजर चैलेंज सर।
नहीं, मैं आई एम अवेयर ऑफ ऑल दीज थिंग्स, बट फिर भी ये बात है कि हमें मॉडिफाई तो अपने, रीओरिएंट तो अपने आप को करना ही पड़ेगा।
यस सर।
रीओरिएंट करने के लिए हमें ये चीजें सीखनी पड़ेंगी। हम इसको मान लो 40% कर लें, 50% कर लें, तो इट्स बेटर देन 0%, क्योंकि फिर स्टूडेंट भी आपके साथ लग जाएगा।
Actually, this challenge is for new generation, sir. We can change ourselves to any level because we have faced that such difficulty in our life.
बिल्कुल ठीक है। नहीं,
What student and what teachers they are coming, both are of same.
ठीक बात है। इसलिए इसका दिस सिग्निफाइज दैट टीचर शुड बी नाउ विद ओपन माइंड।
Yes, sir.
मैं, आप और मैं जैसे टीचर हैं, हम स्टूडेंट को सवाल, गलत सवाल पूछ ले ना, हमें उसको चुप नहीं कराना है।
आप पूछने दो उसको जो पूछता है।
Yes. अच्छा, आप देखो ना, अगर आप ओबी की जरा और गहराई में जाएंगे, ओबी इज ए वेरी पावरफुल सिस्टम।
यस सर,
ये स्टूडेंट को एनकरेज करता है पूछो, साथ में स्टूडेंट को एनकरेज करता है कि फेलियर को छुपाओ नहीं, फेलियर से सीखो।
यस।
अब देखो लैब में क्या होता है, बच्चे कॉपी करके ले आते हैं। अगर हम बच्चों को ये बता दें, देखो दोस्त, कॉपी करने की बजाय तुम गलती मेरे पास ले आओ, और वो गलत क्यों हुआ है, अब नोट करो ये सेंटेंस,
यस,
गलत क्यों हुआ है इसको मुझे रीजन बता दो। जैसे ही बच्चे ने गलत को समझने की कोशिश की, उसकी लर्निंग हो गई।
यस सर।
ये
वेरी गुड स्टेप सर।
हाँ,
दिस इज वेरी गुड।
लर्निंग, स्टूडेंट को कभी भी ना लैब में कॉपी करने से मत रोको ना, सॉरी, कॉपी करने से रोको।
हाँ,
तो गलत मेरे पास कॉपी ले आ,
जो आपका सही रिजल्ट, जो रिजल्ट आया वही ले आओ,
वही ले आओ, और अगर नहीं ठीक आ रहा है तो मेरे को रीजन बता दो।
जी सर, जी सर।
ऐसे ही वो बेसिकली इसके आइडिया ये है कि वी मस्ट मेक द स्टूडेंट टू थिंक।
करेक्ट सर, करेक्ट।
एंड थिंक एट द हायर 3 लेवल्स। भी ऐसा क्यों हुआ, इसको मैं कैसे ठीक कर सकता हूँ। अब जो कई बच्चे बड़े घर के हर चीज को ठीक कर लेते हैं, चाहे प्लम्बिंग का काम हो, चाहे बिजली का काम हो, उसने सिखाया नहीं है, वो उसने खुद सीखा है। अब वो भी कहती है कि 10% बच्चों को तो उन्होंने खुद सीखा, 90 को आप सिखाइए। क्योंकि हर एक को परमात्मा ने ब्रेन तो वही दिया हुआ है।
Right, sir. Right, sir.
हाँ जी,
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
बहुत बढ़िया क्वेश्चन है। एनी अदर क्वेश्चन प्लीज?
सर मैं ऋचा तिवारी हूँ जीएल बजाज इंस्टीट्यूट से। हेलो।
हाँ जी प्लीज।
हाँ जी सर, मैं ये पूछना चाहती हूँ कि जैसे जो फर्स्ट गोल है हमारा ओबीसी का कि हमें स्टूडेंट को ट्रांसफॉर्म करना है इन सक्सेसफुल एंड हैप्पी पर्सन, तो
राइट,
अप्रोच हम कैसे डेवलप करें, क्योंकि कई बार वो कुछ गलतियां करते हैं तो हमें उन्हें डांटना भी पड़ता है और उनको कई बार हमारा एटीट्यूड अच्छा नहीं लगता, ये कैसा लगता है कि हम उनके ऊपर तानाशाही दिखा रहे हैं इस तरीके का, तो वो इन्वायरमेंट हम कैसे क्रिएट करें?
देखिए ऐसा है, ये पहले तो ओबी के जो प्रिंसिपल्स है ना, दे शुड बी अप्रिशिएटेड अंडरस्टूड बाय एवरी फैकल्टी मेंबर। ठीक है ना? इसमें क्या क्या इन्वॉल्व है? अब देखो ना, इसमें माइंड भी इन्वॉल्व है, इसमें ह्यूमन इंटेलेक्ट भी इन्वॉल्व है। जब हम ये अप्रिशिएट करते हैं, अब स्टूडेंट अगर नाराज, अगर स्टूडेंट को आपने डांट मारी तो आपने वजह से, अगर आपको स्टूडेंट को ये रियलाइज करवा दें कि तेरी ये गलती थी और वो मान भी जाएगा तो बात ठीक है। अगर और कोई इशू है, इसको जो अफेक्टिव डोमेन है, आप प्लीज नोट करो, अफेक्टिव डोमेन में बिहेवियर आता है, एटीट्यूड आती है। बीइंग ऑनेस्ट टू वन सेल्फ इज इंपॉर्टेंट। अब आप कहें सारे थोड़े होंगे, ठीक है, नहीं होंगे। अगर मान लीजिए अभी कोई इंडिविजुअल ऑनेस्ट टू वन सेल्फ 20% है, मेक इट 30%, मेक इट 40%। Instead of becoming his negative, OB says to try to enhance it 10%, 20%। अब एक क्लास में आपको कम से कम 10-15% बच्चे ऐसे मिल जाएंगे जो बड़े ओबीडिएंट होते हैं, टीचर की बहुत रिस्पेक्ट करते हैं। 10-15% ऐसे होंगे जो टीचर की परवाह नहीं करते, वो कह रहे देख लेंगे सरदार जी को, आ जाएगा बात कर लेंगे, आ जाएगी मैडम कर लेंगे। अब ये देखो, ये उसका माइंडसेट है। इस माइंडसेट को हमें अगर ट्रांसफॉर्म करना है तो हमें अफेक्टिव डोमेन वाले इश्यूज आ जाएंगे। अब वो अफेक्टिव डोमेन में अगर हम लोग मान लीजिए लॉन्ग टर्म के लिए मैं आपके साथ बैठ के प्रोग्राम आउटकम, लर्निंग आउटकम बनाऊं, आप खुद ही एग्री करेंगे यस इट इज पॉसिबल। अब देखो, अगर आप इंजीनियरिंग कॉलेज से हो ना रिचा जी? आप
इंजीनियरिंग कॉलेज।
यस सर।
अब देखो, जो एनबीए के 12 प्रोग्राम आउटकम्स हैं, आपने पढ़े होंगे ना कि नहीं पढ़े?
यस सर, पढ़े हैं, सब लगा हुआ है सर, हर जगह बरामदे में, क्लासरूम में, लैब में, हर जगह लगा हुआ है।
नोट करो, नहीं उसमें नोट करो, उसमें पहले जो 5 हैं वो डिसिप्लिन के हैं।
जी सर।
नेक्स्ट 2 हैं वो सोसाइटी के हैं, इंडिविजुअल के हैं, इंडिविजुअल के हैं, जैसे एथिक्स एंड कम्युनिकेशन है।
यस सर। और
जो नेक्स्ट वाले, बल्कि जो लाइफ लॉन्ग लर्निंग इंडिविजुअल है, जो बाकी 3-4 हैं वो सोसाइटी के हैं। इसका व्हाट इट कन्वेज इज दैट एनबीए इन प्रोग्राम आउटकम बनाने वालों ने ये ध्यान में रखा कि स्टूडेंट को नॉलेज भी आना चाहिए, स्टूडेंट को एथिक्स भी आनी चाहिए, स्टूडेंट को एक अच्छा टीम प्लेयर भी होना चाहिए, स्टूडेंट को सोसाइटी केयर भी करना चाहिए, स्टूडेंट को हार्मोनियस लाइफ भी रहनी चाहिए। ये इन 12th में सारे के सारे बिल्ट इन है। जब ये सारे बिल्ट इन हैं और हमें क्लास में ये करवाने हैं, इनको टीचर को भी मालूम होना चाहिए और स्टूडेंट को भी मालूम होना चाहिए, तो वी स्टार्ट नोइंग, अरे यार एजुकेशन का पर्पस क्या है? टू बिकम ए गुड ह्यूमन बीइंग, become intelligent human being, become a creative human being. Who disagrees that the purpose of education is to become a good human being? Everyone agrees. If that is the purpose, how can I do that? What are the various actions? What are the various processes? What are the various activities that should be done? लेकिन जब मैं राइट डायरेक्शन में सोचता हूं तो राइट काम होने शुरू हो जाते हैं। तो जैसे आपने कहा कि बच्चे कुछ शरारती होते हैं, मैं तो कहा करो बच्चों को शरारती होना भी अच्छा है। आप शरारत नहीं करेंगे तो बुढ़ापे में करेंगे क्या? जब शरारती होते हैं आप देखो कि उस शरारत में क्या लर्निंग है, शरारत में भी लर्निंग है ये, लेकिन ये जरूरी है कि स्टूडेंट को आप कन्विंस कर दो। देखो दोस्त, जो तुम्हारी लर्निंग किस में है, हर चीज से लर्न करने की कोशिश करो, ऑलवेज बी इन द लर्निंग मोड। चाहे गेम खेलते हो तो उसमें भी लर्निंग है, लैब करते हो उसमें भी लर्निंग है, लेक्चर अटेंड करते हो उसमें भी लर्निंग है। हर एक की अपनी अपनी तरह की लर्निंग है, ठीक है ना? जस्ट 1 मिनट।
सर थैंक यू सर।
जी प्लीज, एनी अदर क्वेश्चन? ऋचा जी, मेरा एक सजेशन है, जो प्रोग्राम आउटकम्स है ना,
यस
उनका उनका एनालिसिस करो इन लाइट ऑफ वर्ब जो उन्होंने यूज करे हुए हैं। आज हमें मौका नहीं मिला उसके डिस्कस करने का, जो उसमें वर्ब यूज करे हुए हैं ना, आप कभी उनको उन पर निगाह डालो, आपको मालूम हो जाएगा कि उसमें जो वर्ब्स है ना, ये देखो मेरे पास कुछ एक है। अब देखो, पहला है इंजीनियरिंग नॉलेज, अप्लाई वर्ड यूज किया हुआ है। दूसरे में आइडेंटिफाई, फार्मुलेट, रिसर्च, लिटरेचर, एनालाइज यूज करा हुआ है। तीसरे में यूज, डिजाइन, एनालिसिस, सिंथेसिस यूज करा हुआ है, ये जो मैंने कलर किए हुए डिजाइन। दैट मीन्स कि ये जब आप इंप्लीमेंट करेंगे तो आपको वो चीजें ध्यान में रखने पड़ेगी। क्रिएटिविटी क्या है, अप्लाई क्या है, ये सब ये आप उनको ध्यान से अगर एनालाइज करो तो आपको सारे वर्ब इसमें नजर आएंगे। जब सारे वर्ब नजर आएंगे आपको मालूम हो जाएगा कि यहाँ पर कौन सा है। एथिक्स है, अप्लाई एथिकल प्रिंसिपल्स, ये टीचर को भी मालूम होना चाहिए और स्टूडेंट को भी मालूम होना चाहिए, ठीक है ना?
जी सर।
ये मैं इसलिए आपको दिखा रहा था कि देखिए ये चीजें ऑलरेडी बिल्ट इन है into the program outcome which have been designed by very experienced senior persons. Any other question, please?
Hello.
Hello.
Am I audible?
हाँ जी प्रिया जी,
Am I audible, sir?
हाँ जी आप
Yes,
ऑडिबल
sir.
हैं।
Dr. Sir, I am in Management Institute, which is affiliated to Savitribai Phule Pune University, sir.
हाँ जी,
Sir, I have a question which is little bit differ from previous questions, and it is related CO-PO mapping, sir. Should
जी
I
जी,
ask or?
हाँ हाँ जरूर पूछिएगा ना।
Sir, actually, sir. Sir, actually, we have course outcomes and we have program outcomes as well.
जी
And program outcomes 10. So we need to map our course outcomes with program outcomes, and that we have to show it. We have to discuss it with the students as well. Sir, my question is, if suppose CO number 1, which is understanding, it's not suppose is not mapping with any of this program outcomes. So there are 3 attainments, na sir, 1, 2, 3. So we have to put, if it is mapping little bit, then 1. If it is mapping keywords is mapping very keenly, then it is 3, sort of thing, na sir. So if it is not mapping with any program outcome, course outcome is not mapping with any program outcome, then can we put it 0 over there in mapping?
नहीं, वो बनानी नहीं है, वो सीओ बनाना ही नहीं है सर, उसकी रेलेवेंस ही नहीं है।
अच्छा,
ये रूल याद रखो आप।
अच्छा,
हाँ, ये
Okay.
मतलब
तो
सीओ
मतलब
बनाने
अगर
के
जैसे
लिए
सपोज
सीओ
सर
बनाने के लिए
अकाउंटिंग है
जो मैप
सब्जेक्ट,
करते
ठीक है
हैं।
सर?
हाँ जी, प्लीज प्लीज
हाँ सर.
मैं से कंटिन्यू कर दूं।
सर
हाँ जी।
Then suppose accounting is a subject, suppose, and course CO number one is understanding, and it is not mapping with like ethical or environmental sort of program outcomes. Sir. So can we put, yeah, can we map it with zero
ना
or
ना
not?
ना नहीं, वो इंक्लूड ही नहीं करना है। वो जो सीओ आपने बनाया है, इसका मतलब वो सीओ आपने ठीक नहीं
हाँ.
बनाया है। अब देखो इसमें बेसिक आइडिया ये है।
सर नहीं.
हाँ हाँ जी,
हाँ.
प्लीज।
Sir,
जिसमें से
the
बेसिक
thing
आइडिया
is, actually, as we affiliated to Pune universities, na sir, the course outcomes and program outcomes already defined by university itself.
अच्छा अच्छा, हाँ नहीं नहीं प्रिया जी, ये थोड़ा सा इम्प्लीमेंटेशन में जिन्होंने बनाया था ना, या आप
हाँ.
सीओ जो, हाँ जी प्लीज।
नहीं सर, बताइए सर, मैं पूछ सुन रही हूँ.
नहीं नहीं, मैं इसलिए कह रहा हूं कि जो सीओ अगर किसी पीओ को मैप नहीं कर रहा है, तो लॉजिक ये है कि वो सीओ रेलेवेंट ही नहीं है। क्योंकि बेसिक, देखो बेसिक फिलॉसफी क्या है कि सीओ कंट्रीब्यूट टू द अटेनमेंट ऑफ पीओज। अगर कोई पीओ नहीं कर रहा है तो वो सीओ बनाने की जरूरत ही क्या है? ठीक है ना, अगर वो बन के आ गया है
सही
तो
है
आप
सर.
लीजिए, कोई बात नहीं। ठीक है,
अब सर आ ही गया है, एसपीपीओ ने दे दिया है, तो जीरो अगर हम नहीं रिलेवेंट है तो कैन वी पुट इट जीरो
हाँ फिर
और
डाल
वन,
दीजिए।
क्या कर सकते हैं?
देखिए इस सिचुएशन में ये आप कर सकते हो, लेकिन मैं जो कहने की वाला बात था, आई वुड नॉट हैव डन लाइक दैट, बिकॉज सीओ का पर्पस, सीओ मतलब पीओ जो होते हैं वो प्री डिफाइंड है। आइदर यू डिफाइन इट योरसेल्फ, बट दे आर प्री डिफाइंड। एक मान लीजिए आपका एक प्रोग्राम है, कोई है, तो पहले आप डिसाइड करेंगे कि आप स्टूडेंट को किस तरह का एजुकेशन देना चाहते हो, किस तरह कैरिकुलम रखना है, वो पीओ से डिसाइड हो गए। जब वो पीओ से डिसाइड हो गए, अब आपने उसी हिसाब से कैरिकुलम बनाया। अब कैरिकुलम में जो आपने कोर्स आउटकम बनाए सिलेबस के, वो कोर्स आउटकम ऐसे हों कि प्रोग्राम आउटकम वो कंट्रीब्यूट करें। अगर नहीं कर रहे हैं तो इसका मतलब ये है कि वो जो कोर्स आउटकम है उसकी उसकी वो रेलेवेंट ही नहीं है। मतलब ट्रू पिक्चर तो ये है, अगर यूनिवर्सिटी बन के आ गए हैं तो उसमें बहुत सारे कमियां होती है, कोई बात नहीं, आप उसको इग्नोर कर दीजिए। जीरो लेना जीरो ले लो।
ठीक है सर, ठीक है.
यू सी द
मतलब
पॉइंट।
इट्स लाइक कि वी कैन पुट. हाँ 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 सर, अंडरस्टूड.
हाँ नहीं नहीं, मैं आप, लेकिन एक बैक ऑफ माइंड में ये ध्यान रखो कि हम लोग सीओ जो चाहते हैं पीओ को अटेन करने के लिए चाहते हैं, ऐसे नहीं बनाते हैं।
यस सर, दैट्स व्हाट. हाँ,
ठीक है ना, हाँ
दैट्स
प्लीज।
व्हाट आई एम आस्किंग ना सर.
हाँ ठीक है ठीक है, थैंक यू।
थैंक यू सर.
एनी अदर क्वेश्चन?
Good afternoon, sir.
जी प्लीज, गुड आफ्टरनून।
I'm Dr. Kendri. Sir, I want to ask, how can we contribute to the PO12 lifelong learning through
वेरी गुड क्वेश्चन, वेरी गुड क्वेश्चन दिनेश। ये सब ये इसको पूछते हैं, सभी इसको पूछते हैं, क्योंकि ऐसा है। पहले देखिए लाइफ लॉन्ग लर्निंग होती क्या है, कभी आपने पढ़ा होगा। ये स्लाइड देखिए आप, इस स्लाइड को देखिए आपको मालूम हो जाएगा कि लाइफ लॉन्ग लर्निंग की सिग्निफिकेंस क्या है। ये सेल्फ लर्निंग है। Lifelong learning is a form of self-initiated education that is focused on personal development and growth. जब आप पर्सनल डेवलपमेंट ग्रोथ की बात करते हैं तो आपका माइंडसेट जो है वो ग्रोथ माइंडसेट बन जाता है। ये क्लास में नहीं पढ़ाएंगे आपको, A lifelong learning is someone who uses both formal and informal learning opportunity to foster continuous development and improvement of the knowledge and skills needed in employment, growth, and personal fulfillment. Lifelong learning means we have developed a mindset. We have learned the significance of this, and we are always concerned with learning something from something or the other. ये classroom learning से बाहर है. It generally refers to the learning that occurs outside of a formal education institute. मैंने आपको एग्जांपल दिया था ना कि जब बच्चे कॉफी हाउस में बैठते हैं ना, उसमें वो लर्न करते हैं अगर उनको थोड़ा सा सेंसिटिव बना दिया जाए तो. Lifelong learning can enhance our understanding of the world around us, provide us with more and better opportunity and improve our quality of life. जैसे मान लीजिए मैंने किसी धोखा खाया, अब धोखा खा के मैंने उससे क्या सीखा, अगली बार उस तरह धोखा ना खाऊं. बहुत सारे लोग हैं जो इस तरह रिपीट करते हैं मिस्टेक्स. Example of life learning are teaching yourself a new language, studying a new subject, learning to use new tools, playing a new game, adding to your skill set during employment, which means what you learn outside the class, what you learn for your personal growth. See, no education system can teach you these things in the classroom. Being a lifelong learner can mean different things to different people, but at its core, it's about cultivating curiosity and gratifying a thirst for knowledge, which means I want to give the assignment to the student. I want to help the student to become more curious, to look at new things, to कुछ नई चीज पढ़ के आया, सर मैंने ये किया है. ये जो डिजायर है ना, ये हमें स्टूडेंट में इनकलकेट करनी है. That's what lifelong learning implies. हाँ जी, प्लीज. हाँ जी, कोई बात नहीं. मैंने इसलिए कहा ये क्वेश्चन हर बार पूछा जाता है.
Sir, my further query is that suppose you have a CO which deals with the basic understanding of the subject. So if you are going to map to the year 12, then how can we justify the mapping?
लाइफलॉन्ग लर्निंग की.
Yes, sir.
आपने कुछ किसी को नया पेपर पढ़ने के लिए
an example for that.
आपने कुछ टॉपिक दिया और बच्चों को कहा ये खुद पढ़ना है. वो बच्चे को तो आपने सिर्फ कहा ये देखना है, वो दो चीजें और साथ कर लाया. दैट्स लाइफ लॉन्ग लर्निंग, विच मीन्स आपने उसके माइंड को इतना क्यूरियस बना दिया. आपने उसको इसका फायदा बता दिया कि वो आपने एक्स कहा करने के लिए वो साथ में वाई भी कर लाया. सो दिस मीन्स ही हैज डेवलप्ड that thinking or curiosity कि मुझे I have to learn beyond curriculum. This is one example. Higher education के लिए कितने लोग जाना चाहते हैं?
Sir, can I add an example here?
हाँ जी, पूजा जी कहिए.
Good afternoon, everyone. Sir, I wanted to actually place this example to clarify my understanding. Like,
Please.
sir, if I'm a teacher and I have learned a subject like organizational behavior. Okay, so sir, I have developed my knowledge for the same, but when I become a teacher, I have learned that how to demonstrate my knowledge in the classroom. I have learned the online session handling, and at the same time when I am being experienced, I have learned that how to handle the student so their learning can be enhanced. So in the first hand, it was the knowledge gained, and further it is a lifelong process that I'm adding and inculcating something extra to me to be more better version of a good teacher, I can say, or the being a good teacher in the classroom, so that learning of the student can be enhanced. May I ask you that is this the correct connection between the lifelong learning?
It's a correct and good example. It's a good example. Because
Thank you, sir.
afternoon,
Because
sir.
when we come to learning, sir, we always try to tell that it is relatively permanent change in behavior. So until it is a lifelong learning, the permanent change in behavior cannot be occurred. Somebody can tell me that how a cup of tea can be prepared, they can tell me. But as in when I'll demonstrate, I'll do the same thing, I will be more experienced, more content, and I will be the better version of myself. That's why I have requested to add here. So thank you.
Lifelong learning can be of various types. Learning a music, learning something different. It's again a lifelong learning. See, lifelong learning signifies the learning mind, new learning mind, which tries to acquire newer and newer knowledge. Not when somebody asks you, but yourself. जब मैं खुद ही, जैसे मान लीजिए मैं अपनी एग्जांपल देता हूँ, I am because my basic discipline is physics. Then I switched over to computer science and engineering. Now I specialize in terms of outcome-based education system also, right? Not only that, I also focus on how to teach higher thinking skills, what kind of problem, what kind of assignment should be done in the class itself. Now, because this is something different, so that's again a lifelong learning, right? See, the purpose of lifelong learning is to make the mind of the student curious, thinker, and be able to, rather than saying, I don't want to learn new things, a keen learner of new things. That's a lifelong. And it's not in the formal, कि मैं क्लास अटेंड करके करूंगा. जैसे मैंने आपको एग्जांपल दिया कि एक पेपर है, आपने पेपर किसी को स्टूडेंट का भी समरी बना के लाओ, तो वो क्या करता है कि उसी में से कुछ बना के लाते हैं. 2-3 ऐसे हैं जो कि 2-3 पेपर पढ़ के आएंगे, 2-3 ऐसे होंगे जो इंटरनेट भी देख लेंगे. जो इंटरनेट भी देख रहा है, इसका मतलब उसमें क्यूरियोसिटी है कि he wants to learn beyond what the paper you had given. So he has a lifelong learning habit. Higher education के जाना भी, it's also an illustration of higher, lifelong learning, but it may be for a few years. After that, let us say you want to learn Japanese, and after some time you want to learn, let's say French. That's a lifelong learning. Why do you want to learn French? Why do you want to learn? Because it's a curiosity, it's a challenge, and you should accept the challenge. So idea ये है, we make the student to accept these challenges. We imbibe the habit in the student that he is not scared of learning new things. That's lifelong learning. हाँ जी पूजा जी.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
हाँ जी. Now, I'm
good
really
afternoon,
happy. Good afternoon.
Sir, I have one query, sir.
Please do.
Sir, ये lifelong learning means we can say that it is a type of means self-learning, sir. It is related to teacher also and the student also, or only teacher.
नहीं, it's a self learning. देखो ये जो
Yes, sir.
लर्निंग होती है ना, ये जैसे स्टूडेंट को आपने देखिए, आप एक और ले लो, स्टूडेंट ने म्यूजिक सीखते हैं कि अपने आप आउट ऑफ द क्लास सीखते हैं ना, तो क्लास में
sir.
मान लीजिए स्टूडेंट रहे तो मालूम होगा, बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट कंप्यूटर साइंस के खासकर इतने क्रिएटिव होते हैं, दे बिकम एक्टर्स. तो वो कैसे हुए? जैसे तापसी है, तापसी वाज स्टूडेंट ऑफ आईटी, आजकल वो एक्टिंग करती है, इसमें वो सेल्फ लर्निंग हो गया ना, बस उसमें आगे वो बढ़ रही है, वो लाइफ लॉन्ग लर्निंग है.
Okay, sir. Thank you.